Christ. And I'm happy to join you today as we gather to celebrate our shared values in the faith and engage in discussions under the theme, working diligently towards transformation and sustainable development of our nation. Now, as mothers, we play a significant role, as Josephine said, as the bishop has just said. The mothers do play a significant role in any nation in establishing stable families as we work under God to establish a safe haven for our husbands and children in every home. God has honored us with a mandate to raise children in His ways, as we instill in them Christian values while equipping them with the necessary skills to live socially and economically sustainable lives within their communities. Now, what does all this mean? When, for instance, we talk of a home as a safe haven for the family, what are we really talking about? What we mean here is a home where children are taught to pray, where children are taught about a quiet time with God, where they learn their individual prayers to God, and where they learn the principles of a relationship with God, where they are taught to speak the truth. When we talk about integrity, and we do that in this country a lot these days, many people don't understand what that means. Integrity means to live a true life and to always speak the truth. So, a safe haven for a family means that place where children begin to learn to live a true life and speak the truth about everything, whether it is good or bad, but speak it truly as it is, instead of lying sometimes to be accepted or to be thanked. Learn and teach the child to speak the truth. That's what it means to live in a life of integrity. To learn where the wisdom comes from. The wisdom of God comes from living and walking with God. The wisdom of God is where you learn to live and walk with God, and that you receive wisdom from God. That's why what it would mean to talk about a safe haven for a home, any home. And that's what Mothers Union are supposed to strive to do for their homes. Now, on the other hand, the mother is to look to the needs of the children God has given them. For instance, if children are going to school for the day, to go to school and come back in the evening, the mother must ensure that they have lunch at school. And you know, we've been talking about the lunch break. It has been a problem in the country. When I was given the responsibility of this Ministry of Education, I went around the country. Literally, I went around the country talking to parents about the lunch break at school, for every child to have a packed lunch, so that they don't get a break in the middle of the day and come back in the afternoon having eaten nothing and be expected to go on with the learning in the afternoon, because they are hungry, they are tired, and they'll be sleepy because their bodies are weak. And so the mother has that responsibility to make sure that if a child is going to school and coming back home in the evening, they must have a lunch break with a lunch pack. And this was decided by government when government was striving to make sure that education is for all. And the president has been talking about this many times, education for all. Because remember, there were so many children who could not go to school because they could not pay the school fees. So government, the NRM government, tried to bring education to make it accessible to all children of Uganda. But when government decided that, then they also decided that the family must at least have the responsibility of feeding the children. And the government is deliberate on making the schools, the UPE and USE schools, the universal education, to become day schools, so that children are going to school and coming home, so that we split the responsibility for the government and the family, so that all children can access education. But when the mother does not strive to ensure that the child has a packed lunch to take to school, that child does not really learn. And when PTAs decide that there must be lunch at school, therefore everybody must pay, there are those children who could not afford school initially. Therefore, even now, they won't afford to pay for lunch. And so, many of those children drop out of school. That's why I am now appealing to the mothers directly, because I'm speaking to the mothers now. Every mother who has a child going to a universal education school must take the responsibility to ensure that their child will pack lunch to take to school. And that lunch can be a very simple lunch, because it is the responsibility of the mother to ensure that the child will not stay hungry the whole day. So you can pack just 2 eggs and maybe a bottle of milk. 2 eggs and a bottle of milk can make a lunch for your child, believe me. And you can't, and if you pray, if you are a praying mother, you can't fail to have chicken in your backyard that can at least give you some eggs. And you keep those eggs for your children. And get a cow that will give you some milk, because you will say, where do I get a cow? Please remember, there are many things we can't do as human beings. But if we are praying people, and I'm going to tell you why I'm giving you these suggestions, but I'm saying now, you can pack 2 eggs and a bottle of milk for your child. That child will have good lunch at school. Believe me. Instead of going without anything, or even a bottle of juice, if you are a praying mother, you can grow some passion fruit in your backyard. You have some juice for your child for their lunch at school. If you don't have passion fruit, you can have some porridge. You can pack porridge for your child. Whatever you have at home, if you are a praying mother and a planning mother, your child will not fail to get lunch for school. And believe me, children don't need to eat so much, but they need little food which is full of value. And so you have to think and plan what is good, what is full of value, even if I don't pack that much. I know this because I brought up a family in very difficult circumstances. I have shared my story many times with women, and I used to share it a lot with wives of soldiers, UPDF, because when I speak now, people can say, oh, but she's a wife of the president, what does she know? But please know, there were many years when I had to bring up my children very young in very difficult circumstances. When we had nothing at home, I was not working for a salary, my husband was not even there. He was here in Ruero in the bush. My children were very young and were very insecure. But what I am trying to share with you, my children always looked good and healthy because I spent all my time planning for their well-being. We were refugees. We didn't have money, but I had to think and work at home. When I was expecting Mosi as a young mother, I started making orange marmalade on my kitchen table. And I'm happy because I'm talking to you when my husband is seated right here, because if I was lying, you know he could say, that's not true. But he's here and he knows it is true. I got a kind supermarket in town. We were in Tanzania at the time, and that manager of the supermarket agreed to buy my homemade jam and pay me on my kitchen door. I didn't have the car to take my jam to the supermarket. I didn't have the money to pay for a truck. So this man was very kind, and he said, you make your marmalade, orange marmalade, and I'll come and pick it from your own home, and I'll pay you right there. That is the money I paid for my hospital bill when I went to have the baby. Now, if I hadn't done my work, I don't know where I would have had the baby, because the hospital that was near us was a hospital where you had to pay, and we didn't have the money. But when I did my work at home, I saved my money. It paid for my hospital bill. So our baby was born in a hospital. Otherwise, you may be stranded. You may think, what do I do? Where do I begin? But these days, I believe in Uganda, planning and praying mothers cannot fail to find a place to begin. honestly, there are some of you who perhaps belong to parish development projects at the parish level who may get some little money to invest in a project. But when you invest in your project, also think about how that project is going to help your children. That's how your prayer can provide the breakthroughs you need. Our prayers must bring breakthroughs to our problems. Our prayers must provide solutions for our problems. That's how mothers can be really very, very useful, important to families, to communities, to a nation. And the bishop just said that right there. He said, show me a progressive family, I think something to that effect, and I'll show you a progressive nation or something to that effect. And mothers can really make a nation progressive or transformed. If you hold hands right here as you are, like that, and work together, you can do so much. And I want to give you another story of the women of Bangladesh that I have also shared many times with women. The women of Bangladesh are Muslim women. They are women who cover their heads. Many of them are not educated, and they are not allowed to go out to work. They must work at home, many of them. But they got an organization that helped raise money to lend them. So the women started borrowing a little money because they were not so confident that they can pay it back. That they would borrow, and then they would pay back little by little until they finish that loan, and then they borrow another one. But they all agreed that they must work together, they must rely on each other, they must watch out for each other, and nobody will borrow money and fail to pay it, because they must work together. Those women, as I speak now, they have a bank that has been talked about globally. A bank, it's called the Grameen Bank. Some of you may have heard about the Grameen Bank. The Grameen Bank is a very, very successful bank of the Bangladesh women. They made so much money until the World Bank came to Bangladesh and asked those women to allow them to lend them more money. The World Bank. And the women of Bangladesh said, no thank you to the World Bank. That is the message that really is uplifting for me, because I went to Bangladesh to learn from those women. They said, no thank you to the World Bank. They said, when we had no money, when we had no place to begin, you did not know us. Now that we have our own bank, you come to lend us money and we don't need it. I thought you would clap for the Bangladesh women. But that is to tell you that when women are agreed and they hold hands together and they watch out for each other, they can build a bank. And you can. A Mothers Union Bank, you imagine, a Mothers Union Bank in Uganda. You can do it. We have a president who wants so much to work with women and to support women because he believes they can help families. If you organize yourself, I have no doubt in my mind that he will give you the founding money. But you have to ensure that you borrow and pay back until your bank becomes a bank, a real bank that lends out money like Stanbic or whatever bank you know. So, the children, the communities can thrive building on what the women are doing. Secondly, we can learn from the women of the Bible. Mothers Union are women who can learn from the very big and important experience of the women of the Bible. What to do and how to build homes, and what kind of homes you want to have. If you are a Bible reading woman, you have so many examples of the Bible. I heard you singing a song when we just came about that mother in the Bible. So, we can learn from the women of the Bible, such as the story of Ruth and Naomi, her mother-in-law. For me, it points out what the role of older women is to educate the young ones to live in the principles of God.